And on the same day, the Labor Department reported figures showing 10% of Americans are out of work. Here's what National Economic Council Director Larry Kudlow had to say.
For a whole bunch of years, you could see it in the labor numbers. People didn't want to work. And I think, if I may, it's cool to work. Your neighbor, your brother-in-law, the guy down the street. Working has become cool again. If you looked, one of my favorites was the millennials, the youngsters. Their participation rates and their job increases were phenomenal before this virus came in. And you know me, I also think work is a virtue, and I think work is a godly virtue as well. But I believe it's been cool to work, and people are going to want to come back.
I'm absolutely speechless. Let's bring in NBC News senior business correspondent and MSNBC anchor Stephanie Ruhle. What the heck was he saying? What was he sober? I ask with deep honesty. I mean it. Was he okay? Was he okay?
I don't know if he's okay. It's unclear to me if he's the arbiter of cool. But Mika, this isn't about whether people want to go back to work or not, or if this administration, when they say we're open for business, we want to get back out there, that's just a sentiment. Remember, the president didn't send everyone home. The first to make these decisions were businesses. It was Adam Silver in the NBA who put health experts in charge and said, this isn't safe. What's really important to remember right now, when the president's saying, why don't people want to go back to work? Why are Democrats blocking this? That's not what it is, Mika. This is a health crisis.
And what
Stephanie,
the president has not articulated.
What
was Larry Kudlow insinuating there? That people are lazy? That they don't want to work? I mean, I want to understand the context.
He's referencing, what he's talking about is this pent-up demand that everybody wants to go back to work because it's cool, it's important. People used to not want to work. That's not the case. Mika, people absolutely want to go back to work. Businesses want to send their employees back to work. But Mika, this is not a snow day. We're not waiting for the president to say, the numbers are down, it's all clear, let's go back out there. The numbers are down because we're staying home. We all want to go back to work, and we will be able to go back to work safely when there's mass testing and when public health officials look at all of these cities and states and say, this is what we need to do to make it safe. Because, Mika, if we suddenly rush back out to work because it's cool and the president wants us to, and there's not safety measures put in place, you're going to see the numbers spike again, and that is going to hurt us from a health perspective and economically. What they're doing is putting on a show that has no actual policy behind it. Much like this idea, let's create an economic task force. Let me know who's going to be on it. Is it going to be Wilbur Ross? Remember, it was in January when we looked at how this was affecting China, and he said this is going to create jobs in America. Last I checked, we just put 17 million people on unemployment.
Gene Robinson has a question. Gene?
Yeah, Stephanie, you're absolutely right that it was businesses, starting with Adam Silver, but also the businesses in Silicon Valley and businesses across the country that first recognized this is not safe. We can't have our employees in and have our customers in. We have to close. Everybody work from home. And you're right that they're not going to come back until they believe it is safe. So who's going to get that message across to the president? Who among the business leaders has his ear to the point where they can sort of get it through that there has to be testing, there has to be, we have to know where the virus is, we have to know that it's safe in order to get people back. And if no one can do that, will businesses have to do their own testing?
Okay, well, Gene, look how this is going to play out. The president is going to say, look, I told everybody go back to business. And that's going to fall on governors and mayors to figure out what do we need to do to make my city safe. What's New York City going to need to do to the subway system? What's the health department going to do when they have to put different regulations on restaurants that's going to possibly have to take tables and chairs out? And you know, when restaurants are under 50% occupancy, they're going to have to go out of business. So what the president is doing is saying, I'm your business guy. Get out there and get back to work. But he doesn't have to do the heavy lift. And he's not going to be giving the money, or he hasn't yet, to those states to enable them to. Right? Look what's happening with this PPP loan, the small business loan. The spirit of this loan is to help employers stay in business, keep everyone on payroll. And moments ago, you've got the president complaining that it's Democrats who don't want to put small business back to work, because yesterday the Democrats said, hold on a second, before we put more money in this program, let's take a look at what else we need to do. And this is really important, because I know you guys have talked about it this week. This rollout has been really difficult. People aren't getting the money. Now, that's somewhat understandable, because we've got 30 million small businesses in this country. But what they haven't done is said, how do we figure out how to get this money to the people and the businesses that need it most? You guys know small business. You know what it's like for restaurants. Any business that is shut down right now, they have zero income. Yet the way this loan program works, there's no prioritization for them. They're not getting money first. The way this works, you have to have 100% payroll. Okay, you have to have everybody employed. Do you know how hard that is when you have no idea when you're going to reopen? But instead, anybody with less than 500 people gets to apply. So let's say I'm a famous person with a staff, I'm a writer, and suddenly I'm not going to be able to do a lot of speaking gigs because there's no public events. I can apply for this. So can hedge funds or law firms or any small business. And for those kind of businesses, I promise you, they've got accountants and tax lawyers who are getting them first in line to get these loans. And instead, what we're not doing yet is figuring out, how do we get this money to people who are literally at zero revenue and shut down? Because those are the businesses, the heart and soul of this country, that we're going to lose, that won't come back.
Hey, Steph, it's Willie. You've been all over this PPP program and doing such a good job of tracking who's getting it, who's not getting it, who should be getting it, who should not be getting it. Mm-hmm. Is the money getting into the hands it needs to be into? A week ago, I had mid-sized bank guys telling me, we don't even know the rules of this thing. We want to give out the loans and help all of our customers, but we don't know how we're supposed to do it. There are no guidelines from the feds. They want to get the money into the hands of their customers, but they hadn't been able to do it. Is that little restaurant in New Jersey, is that little diner and that dry cleaner, all those places that desperately need it just to stay in business, are they getting the money?
Not yet. And just think about this. The blame is getting put on the banks right now. Those mid-sized bankers that you're talking about, they're saying, man, I want to help. I don't know the rules. The banks are somewhat holding this up because they don't want to be left holding the bag. They're the ones extending the loans, and they need to make sure that months from now, the Treasury Department pays them back. And regulators 2 years from now don't say, hold on a second, there's a whole bunch of fraud in here. Because remember, this is free money. These are forgivable loans. And so they need to be sure every possible person out there who's applying is legit. But the banks are saying to me privately, they don't get to just give a loan to a small business that doesn't already bank with them. The way the rules are working, they have to know the customers. So the very sad truth is, many of our smallest businesses are minority-owned businesses in the South that don't have accounts with Chase or Bank America, can't get in there yet. It's one of the reasons that Congress wants to expand this to be for more businesses, but it's not done yet, Willie. And for those businesses, for those restaurants and gyms, every single day counts.
Stephanie Ruhle, thank you very much. We'll be handing off coverage to you at 9 o'clock here on MSNBC.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.